Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and from Jesus Christ our Lord. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are glad and we are rejoicing in it. It is a good day to be alive. It is a good day to be in Formation Saturday with each and every one of you. If you're a part of GB or our social community, you know that Formation Saturday is our time of impartation. We have conversations with faith leaders around subjects that we believe will be a blessing to you in your growth and your development in your personal formation. If you're joining us in the virtual space, why don't you greet me in the comments and let me know that you're jumping on tonight, this afternoon, this morning. I'm in a different time zone today, so I'm kind of a little twisted, but we're grateful to God for your being on today. This is our first time being in formation since last year. God bless you, Pastor Smalls. And I see several others are coming in. This is our first time in formation, at least since October. We've been playing some clips from older broadcasts. This is our first one live this year, and we're excited. Sister Kendrick, good morning to you. We're excited to be here. I do not want to prolong the time. Good morning, Sister Tara. I do not want to prolong the time. We have a special guest with us today. I'm very excited about hosting this guest in the person of Dr. Kendra Carr Pineda. Now, Dr. Kendra Carr Pineda, um, I came to know her through the voice of my spiritual father. Pastor Daniels said to me that he had entrusted her with Kelly, and he said to be a friend to her. I said yes, sir, to my dad, and she has become a sister to me. She has become one of those persons. Let me say this: everyone needs somebody that's on the backstage of your life. They don't necessarily have to be on the front stage. You need people who are on the backstage who can make sure that you are where you need to be, who can pick you up in the spirit and pray for you when needed, who can send a text message to call you in when you're going a little too far. You need people like that in your life. And I'm grateful to God that Dr. Kendra Carr Pineda is one of those people for me. And it's my joy to bring her to you on today for this conversation. She is published, I'm sure, soon to be author published. She's earned doctorate recording artist, preaching everywhere all of the time. I'm telling you, we are going to be tremendously blessed by her ministry today. Would you welcome with me Dr. Kendra Carr Pineda? How are you doing, elder sister?
I am wonderful. How about yourself, Dr. Mickles?
I am very, very well. I'm so glad that you are able to be with us today.
I am glad too. I consider it a privilege. This is your
Wow.
first one of the year, and you
The
have
first one of
little
the
old
year.
me. Wow.
Well, I had Apostle Mom on last year. I said I've had Apostle Mom on, and I've not had Dr. Benina on. The
Mhm.
first person on my list to have on this year
Wow.
was you.
Honor.
So I'm
It's
grateful
an
that you considered to be on. Now, the year's already started pretty fast for you, right?
Absolutely. I believe it's like that every year for me. Literally, I take off the middle of December. I take off the middle of December to about the middle of January because I'm trying to recoup from the year, trying to plan out forecast for the year. And last week was my first week back at it. And
Wow,
when I say back at it, I mean at it. And I consider it an honor and a privilege because God could have chosen anybody else.
that's
So
right.
I try my best to uphold his name and to
That's right.
do his statue.
So today, our conversation, I titled it "Jumpstarting the Year." Now,
Hmm.
one of the things, GB, the reason I wanted to have this conversation with Dr. Carpenina is because she's what we call a midwife. She helps us get from where we are to where we're
Hmm.
supposed to be. That's one of her strong anointings. And so I really wanted to as we're positioning ourselves for what is to come and what is next. I need us to hear the voice of wisdom in that regard. And so,
Yes.
our first question for today, yeah, we're in 2024, but some of us have not completely closed the door on 2030. Some of us carry some things from 23 over into 24 with us. And
Mhm.
most of the time, the reason why we keep carrying things is because we really don't know how to deal with unfinished business.
Mhm.
And so I kind of want us to start our conversation there. How do we start the process of dealing with unfinished business?
Well, let's first, and this is so interesting because I started a series 2 weeks ago, and it's entitled Maximizing Potential. And within maximizing potential, we first initially talked about being intentional in order to maximize your potential. And then last week, we talked about addressing and attacking fear. So, the first thing that we really have to do, we have to go back and examine what I was doing in 2023. Was it assigned work or was it just busy work?
Mm,
If it was assigned work, then the Father has a plan, there's a scope, there's a strategy that He gives us, that He enlightens us with through Holy Spirit. And if it was just busy work, we're finding ourselves aloof. We're trying to put the pieces together. We're trying to make it work. We're trying to pull from here. We're trying to pull from there. And there still is no settling in our spirit. And there is no settling in the task that we have at hand. So the first thing we really have to do is identify if what I bought into 2024 is really the business of the Father, or did I just bring busy work in 2024?
wow. That is very interesting
Mhm.
because busy work actually makes you feel productive.
Makes you feel productive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It makes you
Makes
feel
you feel
productive because you can
right,
check it off of your list. It's a lot of
right.
things that you can check off of your list. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you're getting closer to your assignment or to your purpose, but
Absolutely.
okay, my wheels are spinning. I'm doing
Mhm.
something.
Right.
And for a lot of us, I
And
think
let's
that's
stop right there. It's the I'm doing something that has caught many of us because let's just be honest. Let's have a fig leaf removing moment. We are now in a day and time to where everybody wants to be doing something. Everybody wants to be busy. It's the thing now, whether we want to admit it or not. It's the thing now to have an itinerary. It's a thing now to be on multiple flyers, and you want to be an itinerant speaker, preacher, psalmist, musician. You want those things, but then we have to go back and we really have to look at the plan of God for our lives. God, is this something that I'm longing for, that I'm trying to create? Or is this something that you place before me that I need to get your input on how to strategize it?
wow, yeah. That's key. That is
Mhm.
key because otherwise we're going to again keep going in circles and we'll be in 24 living 23
And 22 and 21.
and
Mhm.
20 and 99 and 98 you
Come
know.
on. Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so we gotta stop just being busy, concentrate on this assigned work.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to ask you to kind of tell us about this intentionality that you talked about the other week, because I think as we're moving from busy work to assigned work, that's going to be important for us to kind of identify what we need to do. That
Right.
that intentionality.
Yeah. This intentionality, we have to identify right now. Where am I? What's going on? What's happening? What are the things that I can clearly see? What are the things that look a little foggy? And what are the things that I have absolutely no idea about, but I have this feeling that there's something more. I can't really put my finger on it. I can't really identify it, but I know that there is something more. We have to be intentional, first of all, and it might be something of old, but hey, I got a little old school in me. We have to be intentional about prayer. We
Mm,
have to be intentional about prayer. That is our communication with the Father. That's how He communicates with us. Of course, He speaks to us in different methods, whether it be through a leaf blowing on a tree or a phone call coming in. But prayer is our intentionality in how we communicate and we reciprocate with God. And if you don't have the author and finisher of your faith involved in your life, then what are you maximizing?
wow.
What are you maximizing? The one who gave you life, the one who's sustaining life, the one who has purpose and destiny and your potential in his hands. He knows all about you. But if you don't communicate with him, how do you know what you're supposed to do? You will have an idea of what you want to do,
Absolutely.
but we don't want to live on what I want to do.
Yeah.
We
We
were
want to live
sent
on.
here for a purpose.
Wow.
And we don't want to spend time trying to attain the purpose of someone that we like. We don't want to be sitting here trying to attain the purpose of someone that we're gleaning from. Because if you don't know your purpose, you can look at someone, whether they're on television, whether they're on social media, whether they're on YouTube, and you can adapt that as your purpose. But God did not assign that for you, and you don't know that because you haven't consulted Him about you.
Oh,
You can't be intentional about what you have no idea about.
okay. That there. Yeah. I
Thank you.
I'm going to jump a question and then I'm gonna come back to two because you've already kind of taken us over into a coming question.
Mhm.
I'm going to jump to what I listed as question number three, but
Okay.
I'm gonna make it number two
Okay.
because you just said that if we're going to know our purpose, we have to be in conversation. So as we're going into 24, our conversation with God needs to be directed in which directions. Our conversation with God should be posturing our hearts how.
Mhm.
Is there some directives in prayer that we should be paying attention to? Is there a
Absolutely.
way that we should be posturing our heart at this time as we're setting up our 2024?
Yes, definitely. And the first place that we need to posture our prayer is, Father, help me maintain my mind. Help me maintain my mind. Because once again, let's look at the landscape. There's a lot of busyness. There's a lot of busyness. And as of right now, kingdom people, those who follow Christ, Christians, those who love God, and those who are blood brought believers. It's very important that we just don't. There's a lot of sobriety that needs to take place. We need to
That's the
become
word.
sober. We need to become sober. We need to become sober in prayer. We need to become sober in saying, okay, God, this is 2024. There are some things I possibly have not finished in 2023. But in order for me to complete those things in 2023, allow them to come along with 2024, that I don't mess anything up, I don't add anything that shouldn't be added. God, I need you to keep my mind focused on you, focused on this purpose, and focused on your plan. Position my heart first to release anything out of there that you didn't put in there.
Mama.
If I'm carrying unforgiveness over into 24, what are you going to get? If I'm still hating on people, if I'm still, we should be so far beyond, the whole, the hateration, the haterade. I mean, come on, there's so much more to talk about. But if you're still dwelling on the people, I don't get no support, and nobody sees me, nobody, that's not the point. If you position your heart to Christ, God, keep me centered. Keep me focused. Everything else is happening around me. Do not let me get caught up in what's the chatter, all the chatter. And we have to be very cognizant, Dr. Mickles, because once again, there's a lot going on. We have already seen it. There's been talk about this person, there's been talk about that person, and oh, this came up and that, and they shouldn't have done that. And everybody's commenting, everybody's talking. This is a time to remain sober in your mind, because the Bible tells us that the enemy sits at the door and he crouches and he waits. And while you're
Mama.
typing and being opinionated, that could be the moment that the enemy is crouching, trying to see, how can I sneak in there? How can I trick this person who said that about that person because we're so opinionated? We
Wow.
have so much to say.
Wow.
We're so smart. We're so educated. Nothing wrong with it. Hey, I believe in education. I believe the more that He gives you responsibility, the more that it's your responsibility to obtain more information about what He's causing you to do and causing you to be responsible for. But what I'm saying is when our intellect tries to override God, we have come into a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I've said several things within that last statement, but our hearts need to be postured in the position of, Father, keep my mind stayed on you, stayed on this work. Keep me attentive to what my hands are supposed to be doing. Help me to not get distracted in what does not
Ooh.
require my opinion or my thoughts.
You just said a word right there.
Mhm. Help
Help
me
me
not to
not
do it.
be distracted by things that do not require my opinion or my response.
That's right. That's right. Right. And yes, we know we live in a country, freedom of speech, but sometimes your speech can impede your purpose.
Whew. Talk this talk.
We don't want to live a duality of I can say what I want to say because it's a free country. I can say, ta 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 ta. We have to be cognizant. We have to be alert. Just because you see it doesn't mean you say it.
Mama.
Just because you heard it doesn't mean you repeat it. That even goes for the prophets. Goes for the prophets. There are a lot of times that God allows me to hear and see, and I'm like, whoa, oh, okay, all right. But then through the maturity of Christ, I understand that everything I see, I can't say.
That's right.
Everything I hear, it's not the time or the season or the release to repeat it. We need total sobriety in this dispensation of release. We need it because if we don't, we will get distracted by, and there's more distractions coming.
Oh my.
There's
Oh
more
my.
coming. But how will you be positioned to bypass it?
So you keep setting up my questions.
I'm sorry.
Keep setting up my
I'm
questions.
sorry. I'm trying. I'm
No, no,
trying
no,
to.
no, 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 no.
I'm
This
sorry.
is absolutely why. This is absolutely why we wanted you on, and
Mhm.
I believe we're going to spend some time on this next one. I'm going back to question number two
Okay.
because this word sobriety is becoming a theme, and we know sobriety is a frame of mind.
Mhm.
So, what kind of mindset shifts are we needing to make right now? Because what I'm hearing, but I want you to take us as far deep as you want us to go.
Sure.
I'm hearing there's some maturity that needs to come into play.
Yes.
There's some temperance and self control that needs to come into play. How
Mhm.
are we need to be shifting our minds now?
Mhm.
Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. Um, in the stance and in the statement of sobriety, as you stated, there needs to be maturity. And the reason there needs to be maturity is because let's use the analogy of a child and a father. If a father tells a child no, if a father tells a child not yet, most children who knows the response of their father, they will accept it. They may not like it, they will accept it. They'll step back. They'll kind of settle themselves. And then you have those children when their father tells them no or not yet, they kind of pout. They keep coming back. Well, when is it? Well, how come I can't do it? Well, why is there not time to do it? I'm waiting on you to mature. I'm waiting on you. I have a 12-year-old son. My 12-year-old son, he's very mature to be 12. But I would be literally almost off my rockers if we gave him the key to our car and say, go to Walmart and get some orange juice. But let me tell you what my 12-year-old would say, because my 12-year-old, and like I said, he's very mature for his age. My 12-year-old, 9 times out of 10, my 12-year-old would say, Mom, I can't drive that car. But we don't want that type of responsibility in growing in our maturity, because we want to go, we want to do, we want God to send us out, and we have not reached the maturation of what we're praying for.
Ooh, my God. Okay.
We have not reached. We want to go to the four corners of the earth when you are not faithful in your local gathering places. We
Oh, she
want
said
God
a
to
good
give
word.
us traveling visas and passports. Yes, you can go get them. They're simple to obtain, but what are you doing that's requiring you to go above where you are when there is no productivity where you are sitting?
Yeah.
So we have to mature, because just because what we see that we want doesn't necessarily mean this is the season that we obtain it. We have to allow God to shape in us, to prune us,
Yeah.
to
When
put
you
us in
say
a
that,
place of receiving.
when you say that, my mind, I been reading devotionally through Exodus, and one of the things the Lord says to the children of Israel is, if I take you into the promised land now, it would be unfruitful for you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So little by little, I'll drive your enemies out, and
Yes.
little by little, I'll make you ready, so that when
That's
you
right.
get there, you'll be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
yeah.
You- You'll be able to handle it, because, and I love God so much, because even in the midst of knowing who we are, He still trusts us. He still trusts us. But even in that trust, as you just stated, He gives us bit by bit to allow us to mature to the place to where He can release it all. Yes, sobriety is a point to where we need maturity. And what was the next one that you asked? I'm sorry, you said a second part to that.
We're just talking about mindset shifts to
Okay.
kind of get us in place for
Hmm.
all that 2024 would have.
Yes. So not only does it requires us to mature, but it requires us to be selfless.
Mm.
Sobriety, selflessness.
Oh, yeah.
Everything isn't about you. Everything isn't about just for you to hold on, for you to hone in, for me, my, I. Once again, going back to a little child, to a toddler, you give them a bear, my bear. Let me see your bear. No, I don't want you to see my bear. And we cannot be so focused on getting what I want to get. Philippians 2 and 3, it tells us not to think more highly of yourself than the other. You got to think about some other people. Think about your brothers more than you think about yourself. And we have to be careful, because we are now and have entered into a society to um, hmm, where brotherhood brotherhood is being falsified.
Oh,
Brotherhood is it's being falsified. It's almost like fool's gold. It looks like it's gold. It looks like a golden brotherhood. But underneath all of that, there are intents, malicious intents,
oh, yeah.
selfish gain. And how can we be representatives of Christ when our heart is only focused on self gain?
Mighty God.
We need to sober from that, because I can't keep pulling for myself. Let's go to Luke 5, when Peter, they were all in the boat, and then Jesus told them, cast your net out again. It's like, God, we've been toiling all night. You want us to do this again? He said, but at your word,
Hmm.
we'll release it again. And scripture says they received so much that they had to start giving to others who were close by them. So, with that being said, even though we're entering a season, and this is the year 5784 after Rosh Hashanah,
Yes, right.
September 25th of last year, we've entered into that season. But can we put a kickstand here? The year of the open door. Some doors are open for you to take other people with you.
Mm.
Many of us don't feel that. It's my year of my door. I'm going through the door. Oh, by the way, I pray that you get to your door.
Yeah.
Really? That's that sobriety bringing bringing us back in. Whether we want to admit it or not, whether we want to confess it or not, we're one family.
That's right.
We're one family. If I see something that my brother, if God has given me something and I know that my brother could gain something from this and this could be a blessing for my brother or my sister, in my mind, I'm talking about me. I'm talking about Kendra. I'm not even talking about the titles. Kendra, you know what? Hey, I have an opportunity to do XYZ. And I think it would be great for you because I know what you do, and you could come along and you can do ABC. We really don't, that's almost unheard of now. That's almost unheard of
Mm,
now. If God had not allowed me to encounter people like that, I wouldn't be on this live with you right now.
that's right.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing because not only did they have an open door, but they were cognizant enough, they were alert enough, and they were mindful of Christ enough to say, you know what? Not only is this for me, but I can help be a blessing to someone else.
And holding the door for you doesn't take anything from me.
It takes absolutely nothing from
Nothing.
me. But if you want to see it in that sense, if I'm holding the door for you, I'm the one that control when it closes. It's not taking nothing from me.
That's right.
Not taking nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Wow. So we've been up. We've kind of been considering some spiritual things. We've been considering the mental.
Hmm.
Let let's come practical
Hmm.
and let's talk about strategy. So, okay, we need some sobriety. Uh, we need to have prayer. We need to be asking God, Father, help me maintain my mind. Father, help me keep my mind focused on you. The mindset shift is towards sobriety, faithfulness, selflessness. Okay,
Hmm.
how do we start walking this out in a practical sense so that
Hmm.
once we get rid of this unfinished business from 23, our 24 won't be busy work, it'll be assigned work.
Let me take it from this perspective. As I mentioned to you earlier about maximizing potential, one of the catalysts that literally holds us back and or hostage is fear. Fear can actually push you to do more than you know you're capable to do. You can be a jack of all trade, a master of none, because you're afraid of failing. Or fear can allow you to suck back, to do absolutely nothing, and year by year, you're trying to figure out how come it's not happening, how come it's not coming together. So, one of the first things we have to do as far as a strategy, you have to have self conversations, conversations with yourself. It's okay to talk to you. It's okay. Now, we're not talking answering, responding, none of that. I'm talking about it's okay to ask yourself some questions. And the first question you need to ask yourself going into 2024, what am I afraid to do? What am I afraid to do? What has me fearful? And I can guarantee you, what has a person fearful is not anything recent.
Oh Lord.
It's nothing
Why don't you
recent.
talk here?
Nothing recent. Nothing recent. Our recent fears are fruit of what we felt from previous encounters. So to say that you're afraid of dogs today, you're afraid of dogs today because of something that happened with a dog previously, possibly years ago. So you need to ask yourself that question. Okay, let's sit down. Let's talk to us. Self, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of not obtaining? Am I afraid of obtaining success? Because a lot of people, they're not afraid of failure. There are some who are afraid of success because then the questions become, so if I am successful, that means that I have to maintain this successful place. Am I able to do it?
Mighty
Will
God.
will the ideas get bigger? Will I have whimsical inventions? Will God still speak to me in a manner that I can maintain it? Or is this it? Do I have more of me to produce? Or maybe this was just the beginning and it was a good jump start. What are you afraid to do? Another thing you need to do, you need to gather trustworthy people around you. Trustworthy people around you. And sometimes your trustworthy person may not be your BFF, because some of our BFFs don't tell us the truth. You need your truth tellers around you. And when you get them around you, ask them a question. And the question simply is, what do you see in me that I possibly don't see in myself? What do you see in me? Because once
I,
again,
I'm going to jump in. I
mm-hmm,
have been running into that all week this week.
mm,
The truth
okay,
tellers in my life have
mm-hmm,
been talking all week,
mm-hmm.
all week.
Praise the Lord, they're talking in January.
Yeah, like back up,
Mm-hmm.
let me breathe a little bit. But
Yeah.
they're talking, and thank the Lord that they
Mm-hmm.
are talking, that they can see in order to talk.
Yes, I was getting ready to say that. And that's wonderful that you have people in your life that you don't have to go to primary, but they come to you and say, hey, I see this. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you, hey, come on, I see more in you. And sometimes we need those people in our lives that we probably don't even know that they see these things to talk to us and to tell us, because we can be our own worst enemy.
Mama,
We can be our own worst critic. And we can be doing an amazing job. People from afar, people up close can see that you're doing an amazing job. But you can go home, you can get in your own silo, and you can become the person that, I didn't like how that sounded. That could have been better. I probably used a little too much, or maybe I didn't use enough. And if we take those moments, and if we're not careful, the enemy will infiltrate us, and he would get us in those moments of solitude, and he will use everything against us possible to make us feel like we're not worthy, we're not equipped, and God literally can't use us if we're not careful. But you have to have those truth tellers around you to say, hey, you know what? It's 2024. What are you doing? I thought you mentioned, about a year or so ago, you were going to start a business. What happened to it? Are you still doing it? You need my help? I mean, I may not know how to do it all, but we can come together. I can help you put some things together. We need those people in our lives. And then after we have those sessions with those truth tellers, those things that we find ourselves afraid to do, here's what we simply have to do. And I know it may sound so elementary. We just have to do them. We have to do them. We have to do them scared. We have to do them second guessing ourselves. I told somebody at one point in time, I said, you have to do it with your knees knocking together, with your teeth chattering. You have to do it, because if God called you to it, and I think you and I both are a witness that whom he calls, he qualifies.
absolutely.
And whom he qualifies,
That's
he
right.
justifies.
That's
So
right.
you have to have those few components. And after you do it, just go do it. Go do it. And then after you do it, sit back. Don't critique. Don't, look at the video right away. Don't just stop and breathe. Stop and breathe. And your stop and breathe could be a couple of hours, could be a day, 2 days, 3 days, or a week. Stop and breathe. Then come back, look at it, and say, okay, that was a success. Or I missed a component. Let me add something to it the next time. Or I literally can remove that. I can cut the time down. Those little bitty small steps will help us get to the next place of where we're supposed to be going. If we allow ourselves to remain in fear, if we allow all this chatter to keep coming and keep overriding who we are, we will remain non productive in a society that's producing everything.
Wow. This is rich. If you're being blessed in the virtual space, why don't you put some twos in the comments? I wanna make sure you're receiving this because she's dropping pearls and gems. If you're being blessed, come on, put some twos in the comments. Have some self conversations. Ask yourself some questions. Number one, what am I afraid to do?
Mhm.
Then gather some trustworthy friends. Give them permission to tell you the truth about you.
And let me stop there. Give them the permission to tell them you the truth about you, and do not become offended. Do not become offended. Because let's be honest, none of us like to hear where we're not where we think we are. We really don't want anybody to come tell us, you could have studied that a little bit more. You could have, it was good, but
Yeah.
I liked it. However, next time try, or I seen something different that you could have, without you saying what, instantly, just bam, you're offended.
Yeah.
But you said, you trust me. And you told me that you're in my corner and I'm in your corner. Once again, these are trustworthy people. These are not people that you're just pulling alongside and you have to, kind of double think of what they're saying. But these are people that that have proven themselves to be trustworthy to you. Let them come alongside, listen, and do not get offended. Swallow hard. Swallow
Uh,
hard. You get that lump in your throat, swallow it.
that's right.
Yeah,
Um,
swallow
this week, one of my people, they used a word that jabbed me in my chest. Like the word they use, like wait, that's no wait.
it. Yeah,
But I had to grab myself and say, why you say that?
that's right.
Because their perspective of me is completely different from my perspective of me.
That's right.
And if I would have kept on down that road, I would have been very offended and missed the place where I can now offer to God in prayer, Lord, this has been brought to my attention. I don't know
Mm,
how to fix it. You do. So you
right.
teach me what to do so that they won't jam me in the chest like this again.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so that I can be a better person. So we got self conversation, trustworthy people, we got action.
Mhm.
Just do it scared. And then we have the stop and breathe review. Uh,
Let me add something here. You said a word about perspective. Um, there's this convolution of perspective versus I want to say it to where it's grasp. Perspective versus presumption. Um,
oh, talk,
because
doctor.
our perspective of something, a lot of times your perspective is from your vantage point. And I talk about vantage points a lot because vantage point is literally from where you're standing. Wherever your placement really gives you a vantage point. So if I'm standing to the left, you're standing to the right. We're possibly seeing the same thing, but we see them from a different vantage point. Your presumption is something that you adapt, you've taken it, and it is what it is. But what if your presumption is incorrect? And sometimes we presume a thing about ourselves and it's incorrect
Oh,
because we're protective of ourselves. So we will see ourselves in a completely different light than someone who's standing to the left and to the right of us. And instead of listening to those who have different vantage points of our lives, we will stay in our presumptive position instead of listening to those who see from the different vantage points who can literally help our lives, who can literally give us a different perspective of how we're seeing ourselves. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. If someone tells you you talk too much, pause for a second. Because here's the truth. You probably do. You probably do. But in your mind, I'm just an expressive person. I like to express. I'm passionate about what I feel. You have no self-control and you talk too much. So I just want to add that.
Oh my God. We often talk about presumption when we're dealing with other people.
Hmm.
You just brought an entirely different scope to that conversation because it's not necessarily presumption of the other, it's presumption of the self.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Oh man. All right, we're soon coming to our wrap, but I got a two-part question that I am absolutely certain is going to get good.
Uh oh.
I'm absolutely certain it's going to get good.
Uh oh.
So, part one is we have a strategy. We know
Yes.
where to point our prayers, how to
Hmm.
posture our hearts. We know the mindset shift is to sobriety.
Hmm.
There's going to be some challenges over the course of this year to
Yes.
keeping a sober mind,
Hmm.
to being faithful, to being selfless. There's going to be some things that vie to take our attention away from God, which is where we're
Yes.
focusing our prayers. We're going to deal with this fear factor. God, I said in a message not long ago, if your vision from God is not big enough to scare you, it probably didn't come from God.
It's a good dream.
So so we got to talk about these challenges,
Hmm.
but on the other side of the challenges, we know there are rewards. So
Yes.
if you could walk us through the challenge right on into that reward, and I think that's going to wrap us. I think that's
Okay.
going to be enough to get us up the mountain to glory lane.
Right. So let's talk about the challenges. We've talked about the sobriety. We've talked about the mind shift. We've talked about being focused. We've talked about maturing. And we've even talked about some self help things, addressing your fear, looking at your fear, jumping to go do it, doing a self evaluation. In the midst of everything that we've just talked about, of course, there will be challenges. Do you absolutely think that the enemy, the one, the one who's the father of all lies, do you actually think that he will allow us to just go through, do this, get everything done, stand back and clap? No. Some of these things you're literally going to have to war yourself through. I heard someone say a couple of months ago, um, you know, we're no longer soldiers in the army. God is fighting for us. He is absolutely fighting for us. Jehovah Gabor, he is the one that fights. But we also have to stand and contend. Because if we don't, the stance that we're talking about, God, help my mind stay focused on you. Though if you don't stand and contend for what you're trying to receive from God, the enemy will easily come along and the smallest thing will distract you. Why? Because you said, God, help my mind stay focused on you. So what do you do when that comes? You got to go back. Like I tell people all the time, sometimes we got to go back to the foot of the cross and say, all right, God, I went so far. Realign me. Realign. I listened to something I shouldn't have listened to. I talked to somebody. I knew they were negative from the moment I talked with them. And instead of me listening for about 2 seconds, cutting it off, I talked to them for 35 minutes. And now I'm questioning my whole life. I'm questioning everything you told me. I knew I should not have sat there and let that feed my spirit. What do you have to do? You got to come back. All right, wait a minute. I delved too far somewhere I shouldn't have been. Okay, God, realign me. I need to be realigned. I need to refocus. I got off a little bit. Come on, shift me back. Get me right back here. Get me right back here. Because if I don't get back here, there's a strong possibility I'm going to keep going over here for the rest of the year. I'm going to be like in and out, in and out. Have you ever seen people? They love God with all their heart. Love God with all their heart. They'll tell you, you can see they have a strong desire for God. but because they haven't really built up that, they haven't built up that spiritual muscle to be able, to push back what's pushing on them. Every week it's a different person that you're talking to. It's the same person, but every week it's somebody different, because they haven't gotten or obtained or worked to obtain that spiritual muscle to take a hit. Ephesians 6 tells us to put on the whole armor of God. Tells us to put on the whole armor. And things that we need to be focused on the armor: the breastplate and the helmet. The breastplate, anytime a soldier put on a breastplate, it was because it protected all of the major organs. It protected everything major that was, that could have been penetrated for them to succumb to the war, to succumb to the battle. But with that breastplate on, they were protected against fiery darts.
Mm-hmm.
So, strategy and how do I overcome losing focus, getting back in, the dizzy space? Put on the whole armor. Put on the whole armor. Every morning, put on the whole armor of God. Don't leave off a piece. Make sure you have on your helmet. Make sure your feet are shod. Make sure you have on the belt of truth. I was talking to a couple of people one time, because the belt would help hold on to the sword and other things that the soldier had. So sometimes, if we can see it, if we're ill equipped by putting on the whole armor of God, we can walk out the house just with the helmet on and nothing else on, leaving everything else wide open for attack. Or we can have the helmet on and we can have our feet shod with the preparation of the gospel and nothing else on. So everything else is open for attack. Realign, put on the whole armor of God. Well, that just sounds like Bible. Bible is truth in that. You don't put on the whole armor. Everything about you can be opened up for accessible attack. Your mind, your mind, your mind is a battleground. If you can win the battleground in the mind, you can win the whole war. Get this mind together. I told the church one time we were doing, I don't know if it was last week or this week before, I gave them some information about my family. I come from a family to where my father was a drug addict, my brother was a drug addict. I have a nephew that's a drug addict, and my brother was also an alcoholic. And my father, who was immensely smart. I mean, he can look at a building, he can give you square footage, he could do all these different things. But instead of him continuing, to do what he was doing in business, to be a businessman. Of course, he got distracted, start living a lifestyle of drugs, everything else you possibly can think of. And one day I was at my grandmother's home and I seen my father come in, my brother came in, and my nephew came in. And I looked at they all came in just like that. They all came in one behind the other. And I looked at the line and I was like, wait a minute, God. You let me to bypass all of that. I bypassed all of that. I mean, smart, articulate. My brother, all of them were so well put together on the outside. On the inside was a raging war. And I told God, I said, God, because you allowed me to bypass all of that, every day of my life, I'm going to armor up. Why? Just because I decided to armor up, you think the enemy's trying to stop doing what he wants to happen? No. You have to continue to put on the armor of God, because distractions are true and distractions will come. But here's the real question: how will you endure a distraction?
Mm-hmm.
And about 90% of the time, we know when something is a distraction. And if it's a good distraction that we consider to be good, whether a person, place, or thing, we will try to make an excuse for why it's a good distraction.
Praise the Lord.
Praise him.
Listen, this is so rich. I got all of this going on. Listen, you're talking about the battle. You were just talking about win the battle in the mind.
Mhm.
Our book club, one of the small groups of our church, is going
Mhm.
through Craig Groeschel's book, "Winning the War in Your Mind" right now.
Right now.
Because if we can win that war in our thoughts, if we can win that war in our minds,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
rest will line up. So
Absolutely.
that, so that's the challenge. Let's talk about the rewards. We contend. We 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 we're, we're armored up. We we resist. The way I like to say it, we resist the resistor,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we come out on the other side.
Yes.
What am I? What is all of this for? What is the reward? I know the word at redemption this year is recompense. So I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that's going to come up in here a little bit too.
Hmm.
What's the reward on the other side of the warfare?
And recompense, of course, we can talk about recompense, but one of the most primary rewards, and let me take it from my perspective, I'm talking about me. When you contend, when you stand, when you armor up, when you overcome the battles, fiery darts that have been thrown against you, and you stand and your feet are, you have a particular stance that even though you were hit, you never bowed, you never bend. One of the most rewarding things that me, have ever encountered is to know that the attack was sent to take me out, but I stood and I'm watching the attack dissolve. I'm watching what was sent to dissolve me. I'm watching it from afar dissolve itself. Not only that, because I have endured and because I remain faithful in the enduring process, Father Himself, as He told Israel, He told the children of Israel, He said, those who were your enemies. Now understand, He opened up a period of time for those enemies to come after the children of Israel because of what they had done previously. But then when God says enough is enough, God Himself will press the button and stop it. And He told the children of Israel, those who were once your enemies have now become my enemy. So when God says it's enough for you going through, when He says it's enough that you've endured these trials and you have stood, you have not bowed, you have not been, recompense comes. And yes, we shout about the recompense. Thank God for it. But one of the best positions to be in is when you can look at something that was designed to kill you and you're still standing.
Yep.
One of the best things. And we
I
thank God for the
love it.
houses, the cars. We thank God for all of that. But to come back and to know that I have my right mind, I have peace. I'm able to function. I don't, I'm not writing. You think I'm writing with a pen and I'm writing with a hairbrush. I got my mind.
Yeah.
And that's something pivotal that we really need to understand. The enemy is not after our money. He's not after our houses. He's not after our cars. He's after your mind.
After the month.
He wants your mind. He does.
Wow. This this has been absolutely wonderful. I I got at least 3 pages of notes here.
Of course you do.
I got at
You of
least three
all
pages.
people. Yes, you have 3 pages of notes.
3 pages of notes. I am going to encourage everyone who's watching to come back to this live, come back to this broadcast and watch it again. You're probably going to want to save this. You're probably going to want to save this and come back to this in July so that you can check your year up for the second
Yes.
half of the year.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm going to watch it quarterly. I think I'm going to watch it in April. I think I'm going to watch it in July. I think I'm going to watch it again in September because you're going to need to be reminded over the course of this year because so much is going to go on this year. This year is going to
Yes.
move very quickly. It's going to move fast, and you're going to need something to anchor you and bring you back to sobriety. And Dr. Carr Pineda has put that to us in the way that no one else in the world can do it but Dr. Kendra Carr Pineda. I got one more question and we're going to wrap it. This is my favorite question to ask. I've never asked you this question. This is my favorite question. If you could go back to the very beginning of your ministry, your journey with God, knowing everything you know today, what would you tell yourself at the very beginning?
Relax. Relax.
I like it. I
Relax.
like it.
Yeah, relax. It's all
Wow.
coming together. Relax.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Uh,
Absolutely.
this has been amazing. If you're in Pensacola, in the surrounding area, Redemption Faith is a wonderful church to go on Sunday afternoons. Um,
Amen. Thank you.
I enjoy the lives. The music ministry is second to none. The preaching is everything. And sometimes when I get away, I go and sit on the wall in the back, and I
Yeah,
go and
he'll
sit
pop
on.
up now. He will. Hmm.
I'll go
He'll
sit
pop
on the wall in the back, let everybody dance and jump, and I just sit because I like to just be in the atmosphere
up.
there. And I love to show up where she's ministering. Her teaching ministry is amazing. Her intercessory ministry is amazing. I am really, really hoping that she puts a workbook together around that birthing room. It is amazing. It is amazing. So many businesses, so many ministries have evolved out of that program. And when does the new music project come out?
It's slated for the end of March going into April.
Okay.
But the
I want
single, we're looking at getting the single out in the beginning of March.
I really wanted to be there. Something happened with the kids so that I couldn't be
Mhm.
there. But I heard that it turned into one of those services.
God was kind to us.
Yeah.
He
It
was
turned
kind to us. He was. He really was.
whenever
Yes.
you get all of those in the same room, it is absolutely going to go
Yeah.
up, up, up. And
Yeah.
so, listen, thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. We're going to wrap up. Listen, the Lord bless you and keep you until we get together the next time. Thank you so much for being our first guest this
Thank
year.
you.
We'll
Thank
be
you.
on next month on the third Saturday with another special guest for our
All
Formation Saturday. Peace.
right.